Today I'm going to be reviewing a book from Crossway. This is called Radically Whole, Gospel Healing for the Divided Heart, and it's by David Gibson. The reason I chose this book and to read and review this book is because it was a study on the book of James, and I'm really interested in studying the book of James. I've gone through it before, but I want to go through it, do a little more in-depth study of the book. I have a Daily Grace Co study I'm planning on going through, so I thought this would be a good addition as I'm planning on doing that. So I'm just going to give you a little more information about the book here. It says, the fundamental problem of the human condition is not primarily what we say or do, rather it is who and what we love instead of God. And that's taken from the introduction of this book. Do you often experience a rift between what you know you should do and what you end up doing? This common double-mindedness in speech, actions, and character can feel demoralizing and isolating, but the good news is that hope comes through God, and He can heal your fractured heart. In this exploration of the book of James, Pastor David Gibson helps you identify double-mindedness in your own life and better understand God's grace. Examining James' epistle chapter by chapter, Gibson challenges you to embrace the painful yet profound process of redemption, fight double-mindedness, and experience wholeness. So that's definitely rang true for me. I'm sure most of us can relate to that as well, just that double-mindedness of wanting to do the right thing, wanting to follow God's will, but also struggling with the pull of the things in this world as well. So that really drew me into wanting to read this book. And I've started reading it. I'm a little over halfway through. I've really enjoyed it so far. And I'm reading James in some of my different Bibles in different translations. I didn't grab my Bibles here today to do this review, but I've been reading it in my NASB Bible. I was using the NIV Quest Study Bible a little bit, Cultural Background Study Bible, just whatever I feel like grabbing that night. I think I've used the ESV Study Bible too. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I've used a lot of different study Bibles. The scripture that is quoted in this book is going to be mostly in the ESV translation. So I found it interesting to go through and I like to do this with my studies, just use different translations and kind of compare them. So I've been doing a lot of that as well. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into this book here. So we're going to have 9 chapters. First, we're going to get an introduction, getting your bearings, and then we're going to have chapter 1 is perfection, chapter 2 is doing, 3 is love, 4 is seeing, 5 is words, 6 is wisdom, 7 is presumption, 8 is wealth, 9 is suffering. So I really like how he breaks down the book of James and goes through it little piece by little piece as you go through the chapters. So I found that to be really helpful. So this is the preface here, and then we get acknowledgments. And this is our introduction here that we're going to get into. So it just kind of drew me in because I really wanted to do a deeper study of the book of James. And this book does a really great job of doing that. So let me see if I can find a little piece to read to you here. I won't read much, but just so you get an idea of what the book sounds like. So the introduction here is kind of going through... Sorry, I'm like losing my spot here. I just was looking at something I wanted to tell you. Okay, so the introduction, a lot of it's going through observe the symptoms. So James is writing to churches that would soon be on their deathbeds unless they take drastic action. They are fellowships containing men and women behaving badly. And when we look at a church that's gone so badly wrong, it needs to serve as a warning for us too. It's a measure of God's kindness to us that sometimes He puts the cadaver on the slab, cuts it open, and tells us to have a look at what killed this once living, breathing organism so that we can take action to prevent it from happening to us too. So I thought that was really powerful. Sometimes we read the Bible more as like a history book, but, what happened before and think, they weren't following God's will and they weren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. Yeah, well, we're still doing that today, so it's very applicable to us today as well. So I thought that was really powerful there. It also talks about 3 symptoms of what is going wrong in the churches to whom James is writing. So symptom 1, these churches are speaking angry words. Symptom 2, the churches are drawing ugly lines. Okay, where's Where's symptom 3? Just skip that. Maybe not. Okay, well, anyway, I don't want this video to be too long. So it's talking about what do you really believe, the world in the church, how we kind of live this double-minded life. And there's symptom 3. These churches are not doing good works. I knew it was in there somewhere. All right, and then chapter 1, I'll just show you how the chapters are kind of broken down here. They print the scripture for that chapter in the beginning. It's in the ESV translation. So chapter 1 is going to take us from verse 1, chapter 1, verse 1 to verse 18. So James 1, 1 through 18. This usually starts out with some kind of personal story or something, you know, a little bit relatable to us. And then it goes into breaking down those verses throughout the chapter. All right, I'll read a little bit of this, and I think I will just kind of end this here, so I don't want to make the video too long and bore anyone here. This first chapter is all of me for all of you. Richard Bauckham comments that in this opening section of his letter, James intends to highlight the overarching theme of the whole work, perfection. James chapter 1, verses 1 through 18 is a collection of wisdom sayings or aphorisms, hopefully I said that right, laid out, it seems, in almost random order. In fact, James is simply highlighting virtually every topic that he will go on to expound in greater detail in the rest of his letter. And he begins by telling us there's a way for us to be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. How I would love to be perfect. It's a tantalizing goal for every Christian, and it would be amazing to get there. My wife would love it if I were perfect. Wouldn't we all, right? My kids would be over the moon. Think how much everyone around me would benefit if I were the complete package, the real deal in every single area of life. I believe that James begins his letter in this way because, right from the start, he is showing us the opposite of being double-minded. Being perfect is his word for being whole. Perfect is translated from a Greek word, and I won't try to butcher the Greek word. And in fact, it appears twice in verse 4, and let steadfastness have its full effect, or full perfect effect, that you may be perfect. James reinforces this with a very similar word, which again, I won't butcher the word, which means complete, and with the extra phrase, lacking in nothing. So I won't read any further than that, but just so you get an idea, there's some like word study in here, and it really breaks it down, and I just think it's really helpful if you are planning on studying through the book of James. And chapters are a little longer. They're about like 20 pages or so, give or take, but there's only 9 chapters, so the book ends up being like 200 pages. At the end of every chapter, you're going to find some questions for discussion or personal reflection. So, for example, this one's number 1, how do you feel about the Bible's vision of perfection as the goal for every Christian? Try to explain that vision in your own words. Number 2, why do we find it so hard to consider the trials of life all joy? James 1:2. And what difference does this chapter make to that struggle? And another example, how does God, as one simple, unchanging, become the solution to our quest for wholeness? So just to give you a little idea of what that looks like, again, you're going to get the scripture printed right in the book, so that's nice if you are using this for small group study. It's right there, right printed in the book, so you can go through it together. There's reflection questions to do at the end of every chapter. So just a nice deep dive, in-depth study of the book of James. And again, this book is called Radically Whole. It's by David Gibson, and it's from Crossway.